Welcome back, everybody. Hold on to your seats. We're on episode number 324 of the Mail Right podcast. Today, John and I are going to talk about. I've already got him laughing. I'm 3 seconds into the
It's
show.
just that introduction. It was just that introduction. I didn't know what you were going to say there. He's in a funny mood today, folks.
I am. I had a really long call with really two high-level digital professionals, and it kind of got me a little bit buzzed in enthusiasm. So, and we're going to invite them on the show. I'm going to keep it a secret to who they are, but hopefully they'll accept. And then John and I will talk to them publicly with all of you. And I'd be really excited for you to meet them because they were really cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, though, this is episode number 324. Last week, John kind of took the floor and talked about where the state of the real estate market was. And he had a lot more to say about it than I did, to be honest. But today's episode, number 324, is going to be what digital marketing strategies are going to work in 2022. And I'm actually going to break this out into two categories, okay, for the people that are here. And since this is more that's not necessarily true, but this is a strong area.
Well, I took up most of the time last week. So.
There we go. That's actually the truth. John's being more honest than I am. The truth is he just is like, hey, I took up all the time. Why don't you take up most of the time? I'm like, okay, I can talk forever. Let's do this. So
I can testify for that, listeners and viewers.
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. All right. So buckle up, buttercups. Here we go. Okay. We're going to discuss digital 2022, and I'm going to break it into a couple of categories. The categories that everybody knows. You already know all these companies, and I'm just going to kind of say really few fast pros and cons. I'm going to do this quick. And then I'm going to tell you some of the cutting edge stuff that I think is going to work. I'm going to cover the usual players. And then John has agreed to let me take the stage very briefly and discuss the strategies that I focus on, which are going to work in any year very well all the time. Up market, down market, doesn't matter. And we're going to discuss some of those because they will work very well for you in 2022 if you decide to invest in them. So first, though, the usual players. Who are the usual players? Direct marketing companies like KV Core, Sync, Real Estate Webmasters, Boomtown, Sierra Interactive. Now, Sierra Interactive and Real Estate Webmasters fall into an unusual category because you can do SEO on their site, but here's what we're seeing in SEO. Unless you have a personal message attached to your site, these search sites that do really, really well for SEO, such as Real Estate Webmasters and Sierra Interactive, are not performing as well on lead generation. You're not getting as many leads nor as strong as leads. Hear me on that. So do you want to necessarily make as big of an investment in those real estate search sites as you once did? That's questionable. The direct marketing companies that are out there, the only companies that are really probably going to continue to excel in 2022 are the ones that are layering in ancillary technology that right now mostly is Ylopo, but many other players are getting into the mix. So what do I mean by ancillary stuff? Like automated texting, automated checking of a lead. When they give you a secondary email address, what they can do is they can go out and check the email and then find out where their real email address is and give you a whole buyer profile, even though technically the person tried to be clever and not give you their real information. That's an ancillary layered technology. Yet another one of the ones that Ylopo is using. Now, Ylopo has become overbooked, so please don't listen to the show and go, oh, it's all Ylopo. No, they are at the height. They have huge momentum, and most of their markets are crowded with the strategies that they're using. So I'm starting to hear a lot of consumer feedback that they're not as effective. That doesn't mean that you can't see a strong ROI. That doesn't mean I'm not recommending them either. It just simply means that I want you all to be aware that this is a company that is now reaching maturity. Their strategies are reaching maturity, and many of them are not nearly as effective as they once were. Okay, so you have lower quality websites, which everybody loves to bring up to me, and I understand there are literally 1.5 million of you who could be listening to this show and ask me questions about Wix, Squarespace, and the list goes on. Anybody under the sub $200, Easy Agent Pro, Real Geeks, of that entire stack, Real Geeks still remains a shining gem of a company. You can actually, for the investment that you can make with them, they can succeed in direct marketing and they can succeed in SEO. They are one of those companies, though, that without the direction of their former founder, it is a little harder to work with them than it used to be. So do I recommend them in 2022? Until they go out of business, I'm suspecting that in some way or another, I'll be recommending them.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What do you see? Because that's high praise from you, even though you quantified it a little bit from the next sentence. But why do you think they shine out than some of the other names that you were talking about?
Mostly because it's price versus value. That's why they shine out. So they're cheaper by far. They're half the price of Sierra Interactive, who's another very good company. They don't have the diligence in development shops. They're not trying to sell you, not like me, Sierra. You want a really high-end site? Sure, we can build it, but it's going to be $9,000, $10,000, $15,000. That's a big number for 99% of the 90% of the people listening to the show, and for the other people, you have to justify the investment. Real Geeks is beautiful. $700, $200 a month. It's reasonable. It's not. It's in the reach of almost everybody listening to the show. And it's not going to put anybody in major credit card debt if they're a brand new agent.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Obviously, you haven't mentioned MailRite, but the other factor I still
don't know well enough. I know all these other systems like the back of my head.
But another one that we kind of position ourselves is Agent on Fire. You've never really mentioned them at all. Don't you rate them at all?
Not really.
No.
But here's the thing. There are so many companies, Agent Fire, Realty NA, like I can go on, and I can go on to MailRite. And here's what I will say about MailRite. John, this drives John crazy, but I'm always even-handed with everybody. Here's what I like about MailRite. I still haven't really deeply looked at the technology. John's development stack requirements to get up to the par of some of these systems would be very high. Maybe he's achieved it, maybe he's not. I haven't looked at it close enough. But here's what I love about MailRite that is true from my heart to anybody listening to the show. So you can still get John on the phone. John is a incredibly well-versed WordPress developer. He's deep in that world. I strongly recommend that anybody who's thinking of going in the direction and starting in the direction of building WordPress projects, you can talk to John if you're in real estate. You can get some advice from him. Yes, he will talk to you about MailRite. Yes, he'll show you MailRite. If it works for you, then sign up for it. WordPress development is complicated. I wish it wasn't, but it is. What plugins you use, how you build your site, who you have building your site, how you support the site after it's built. Do you have a way to check the plugins? Are they being monitored, managed? And that's without even going into the functionality that you build to do real estate specifically. Yeah. So all the things that I just mentioned before I even got into real estate, John is really, he's a great resource.
So thanks for that. I really appreciate it. But when it comes to Real Geeks, what specific, so it's the price point compared to some of the more advanced systems that you were talking about, some of the other previous names you were mentioning, which have some very high ticket numbers as well, haven't they? But for the price, for what they offer, and because of their background, you think of that lesser price group, Real Geeks kind of semi-shines out for you. Would that be right?
Yes. It's a value proposition. They have a reasonable CRM. You can text. You can do a lot of cool follow-up out of it. And once again, you're still spending less than $200 a month. It connects and does Facebook ads, all for the sub $200 a month range. It's value for money. Most importantly, though, their websites are well structured, and for SEO, for everything. They have skipped all the fancy graphics. They don't even allow them to be built onto their platform. I've got a client that called me the other day spending $5,000 a month and driving it into Real Geeks website, but the Real Geeks website kind of looks like all the other sites, which is a pro and a con. However, you stick with, if as a website developer, you keep telling your real estate clients, I don't care what you tell me you want, I'm going to build you a well-structured site that's going to work well in the search engines and everything else. That is a very hard message, Sean. Many people will not buy from you when you give them that message as a real estate agent, which is fine. But the ones that do get a well-structured website that's going to work well in the search engine, it's not very pretty. It's probably not what a branded or luxury agent's going to look at. but it is absolutely something that's functional, which is going to serve 50% of the real estate market. They have one of the broadest market appeals that is out there. Because
can I put this to you, and we might have a little bit of time to discuss it before we go for our break.
Mm-hmm.
I have some real problems with this whole conversation, really.
Okay.
Not with you personally or anything, or what you've said. I just want to explain why I have a problem with it.
Sure.
Because these sites, as you totally know, because you really understand this, and it's the bread and butter of your business.
Sure.
In coding terms, it might be SEO friendly. In some of the technical sides of SEO, it might be friendly. But I also see websites divided between those that are designed for buyers and those that are designed for sellers, in a way.
Sure.
But without quality, relevant content that really Google likes, they can be as technically proficient as they like, but they have no value to Google. That's how I'm seeing it. I don't know what your response to that attitude. No, without investment on writing content that would be useful for people coming to your website, and then they might look at properties that you're displaying for your IDX feed. But without that value proposition, I find with a lot of these conversations, and I find with a lot of real estate websites, that's fundamentally missing, that core value proposition.
Okay, so that's going to be the second half of the show, because I'm going to cover the stuff that we do, which is all about content and such. But I'm going to answer the question halfway, and then we should probably go to break. Okay? The halfway answer is this. So very, 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 very few real estate websites are built with on-page technical SEO signals that are correct. The right amount of links that guide to the right amount of pages, that have the right titles, that also connect in a kind of silo way, like neighborhood, city, building, that kind of way. Things like that, like an organized way that Google understands. Because so few real estate sites are actually built in a technically SEO proficient way. I'm not talking about content, just talking about SEO. Google really likes the ones that are. Now, there's very few of those, as I've already said. The Real Geeks, Sierra Interactive, and Real Estate Webmasters are the only people that have the chops probably to do it on a consistent basis, and they don't necessarily do it. Union Street Media and some other like very independent small shops, they might have the ability. Me definitely, but we're nothing. Like, I don't plug Inbound REM because I'm not a competitor to any of these places that we've.
You're like MailRite. You're a boutique player, aren't you?
Right. So all of us in the boutique area, you might get somebody who could do a good branded site and do it in a technically SEO proficient way. But these guys that are churning out, 20, 50, 100 projects per month, maybe more. Who knows? You and I don't know. I don't know. Like, who knows how many they're churning out? And to do it at that scale, there's only a small handful of players. Now, could that change? Sure. There might be a product line that Playster has that they could build, because I'm pretty convinced they probably could with the direction that they've gone. But that doesn't mean, like, when you look at their lower end products, John, like the same price range, like $140 a month, that's their new pricing. I looked at their new pricing. You look at their new pricing, nobody's getting a technically SEO sound site for $140 a month. Ain't gonna happen.
I wouldn't have thought
so. So they have a concierge product, though, that's a much higher end product that attaches an account manager. And as I haven't yet published my reviews, but I'm going to. When I do, I'm going to say this level of performance that you're going to get probably is going to come down to how skilled are the people that they're putting you on the phone. Like, what kind of advice do you get? What kind of consultation do you get? How do you decide to build it?
Yeah, but I still get to the point which you're going to cover in the next minute after we go for our break. Is you can have a technically structured optimize SEO, you know, the structure, the navigation system, the meta tagging, all the technical SEO bits. But if there's no real content on the bloody site and you're not using paid traffic to drive traffic to that website, and you also don't invest any time, effort, or money in the actual content, you're still not going to get any results, are you?
Well, that's what I was going to cover in the second half.
Right.
But I like, let's put the pin in here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back. Whatever you're watching us on, please do us a favor. Hit the thumbs up. Leave us a comment. John works so bloody hard on the show, and I show up. So we should absolutely, positively be listening to you and hearing your thoughts and getting what you want us to talk about. Because John and I will just go on ad nauseum about whatever entertains us that particular day, as those of you who we love keep coming back and probably realize. And we're so grateful for you. So thank you very much. Stay tuned. Here's what I'm going to be covering in the second half. I'm actually going to talk about my bailiwick. And for those of you who stay for bonus content today, I've got some gems for you, because I'm going to cover bleeding edge stuff that nobody knows about. Deadly serious. Even John doesn't. Yeah. All right.
There's very little that I know about, actually. Okay. We'll be back in a few moments, folks.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Mail-Right Show. Ladies and gentlemen, the second segment of the show is going to be covering, so we're talking about strategies going to work in 2022. John and I got on to the big popular ones. We talked about a bit about Real Geeks, and then John was starting to cover, hey, even if you have an SEO technically proficient site, really, if you don't have anything on it that is content-based, is it really useful? That was effectively how I recognized the question. And I'm going to say this. No is the answer. You need, it's not enough anymore, because do these sites work? Do these technically proficient SEO sites work? Yes, they still do. Okay, they get you in front of organic search, both long tail and primary keywords on Google. Once people come to your site, though, I have to ask the question. I'm going to ask it to John, and actually John knows the answer because he's driving in this direction, but I have to ask the audience the question. Think of this to yourself. If what you're driving them to is neighborhood searches, and all you have on your entire website that's personal to you is a bio, and I've seen hundreds of these, there's no information about you. There's just a real estate website and neighborhood searches, which might be a little bit more specific than Treelier, which is great. And maybe the recognition that you got on the search engines is in some markets still relevant. For most people, though, when they're looking at these search sites, they're going to do searches. They're going to use your site. They're going to find your site. They're going to maybe even register with your site. Now you have a lead. But did they make any personal connection with you? No, they did not. Did they learn anything interesting? No, they did not. And they're going to probably forget both you and the domain that they found as soon as they're off it. Now, maybe if they come back to your site 5 different times, you have a chance of them registering based upon brand recognition and having that lead be of value. For those of you who propped up this site, these kinds of sites for many years, I have no doubt that you're still getting results. I will bet all of you listening to the show that you have watched those results in terms of lead quality and lead quantity dropping slowly over the last 5 years and now rapidly over the last 2. That's my bet for every single one of you listening to the show. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm guessing I'm right. Now, to address your question, John, the answer to the question is today's marketing in 2022 is about personalization. Personalization in content, personalization in video, letting people know who you are. All effective marketing strategies are heading in direction. So John and I talk ad nauseum about video. So needless to say, that's still number 1 in 2022, video. But it's personalized video. It's not fancy listing presentations on your YouTube channel. It's something that's featuring you, letting people get to know you a bit. Same thing on your website, John. To answer the question, doing a deep content page is great. And having a lot of, and that is step 1, and it still does work. It doesn't work as well as it used to. Text-based content is not, unfortunately, drawing in the same kind of results as it used to, which is, by the way, for everybody listening, this is what I've been doing for 16 straight years. This is my area of expertise. I speak from a great deal of data-based insight onto this subject.
See, what I just want to see if you agree with this, Rob. I see. I totally agree with what you just said, but I also link it with top quality. Doesn't have to be, can't be done overnight unless you're going to hire people like you to write it and know about. But what I see is what you've just said linked to top quality, what I call evergreen content that has some real value. And we've had episodes where we've discussed evergreen content. So if you go to the MailRight YouTube channel and do in search for evergreen, it will come up. We've had some, but that's what I see is video about the team, about you, why you're different, and really top quality evergreen content. What do you think about that, Rob?
Well, that's true. So in terms of strategies that are going to work in 2022, the direction my entire agency is going for every single reason that we have, I go where the market goes. For everybody listening, I quantify myself as an inbound marketer, but really what I love is telling good stories, which is a critical element of inbound marketing. John's calling it evergreen content. It's telling a compelling enough, or it's giving a compelling enough answer on a subject. So real database, data friendly, format friendly information on things like property tax. Because another thing about SEO in 2022, it's formatting, page formatting, interactivity on the content page itself. Like, can you interact with it? These are signals that Google has gotten really, really good at collecting. It does play into the evergreen story, though. Do you have all like a really good content piece? You just reorganize the formatting. It doesn't really change the concept of writing a really good content piece. It just changes how you're presenting it. Do you have a good infographic that summarizes all the points in the content piece so that when somebody's looking at it, they're like, oh, that's an interesting point about this neighborhood, or 50 famous people who've lived here. I didn't know that. Like, or 50 years ago, this neighborhood was established by a guy that, was the descendant of a slave owner or something. Just some really interesting detailed fact that people didn't know, because it catches their attention. They pay much more attention. Once you have one aha moment on an evergreen page, here, I'll tell you all something that are listening to the show. A great evergreen page of content only needs to present one aha moment. You need to try to get it early on in the page of the content so that somebody goes, oh, I didn't know that. And here's what happens, John. They pay a hell of a lot more attention to the other 90% of what you wrote. Because they're like, you wake them up with something that they actually learned. The problem with the internet is we're not teaching anybody anything anymore. We're regurgitating what everybody else already taught. That's the problem. So you have to have good researchers and educated writers who are really trying to give an unusual and excellent answer. Now, everybody listening to the show, if you do this with email, if you do this on your website, if you do this on a blog, if you do this on a YouTube channel, these are all inbound marketing strategies. And I hate to say it, I'll ring this bell until it shouldn't be rung anymore, which is, this is still the best, most profitable marketing strategy long-term that you can pursue. Now, in 2022 is the best year I've ever seen to get into it. Why? Because we're in for some market shifts. Content marketing, evergreen marketing, as you said, John, it tends to be more stable.
Yeah, I call just to finish off, and I just want to get your response there. I call it evergreen content. This is content that you've invested time, either your own time and your own money, or you've got somebody like Robert, or we do some of this at MailRight, but we do it at a lesser price level than what Robert's team does it at. But investing, the reason why I say evergreen content is important, because it's possible. When it comes to blogging, Rob, blogging is great. Blogging, and what I mean by blogging is regularly writing about things that your target audience would be interested and would find value. And writing blogs still has enormous value. The reason why I don't unless you're going to hire a team like yourself or a copywriter that has experience of the real estate industry, they're not cheap. So if you're not going to hire them, you're going to have to do it yourself, and you're going to have to dedicate yourself doing it at the same time, and just doing it once a month probably ain't going to push the needle. So you're going to have to do a lot more regularly, and try and fit it in with the rest of the bloody things as a real estate agent you're expected to do. And I don't think most agents can do it. They for understandable reasons, it's the first thing that gets dropped because they've got other things to deal with. So I don't think regular blogging, unless you hire a team like yourselves, you're better off investing the money on really great evergreen content, because I think that will pay dividends and it's realistic.
I again, I agree. There's no disagreement. And in terms of investing in content, oftentimes, like you end up getting out of it what you want. With us, it's not so much. I don't do a blog post a month, which is kind of funny that you mentioned that, but quality. Here's one thing that we do agree on. I don't know that I agree on quantity. You should, once a month would be an aim, but here's the critical factor in that thinking. If you blog a lot, you can get lucky and hit a topic that maybe there isn't like a lot of strong results in, and so your content doesn't have to be quite as good, and so you can back into some traffic. That's a great reason to blog more frequently. If you think that you have the skill and ability to have a good shot at ranking each and every single time you write something because you've spent so much time on it, it's high quality, you're going to send all the signals in, such as manual outreach, backlinking, maybe a social push onto social channels, maybe even you add a YouTube video onto the same post. So now you have 3 or 4 different levels of signals. Your images are properly optimized. That's another level of signals. So now you've got 5 levels of signals into a high quality piece of content. That to me is the better investment. It's quality, focus, concentration on what you're trying to say. Users in my experience, and John, we may disagree on this, but I've noticed a proliferation of people paying less and less attention to shit that's being put on the internet. Like, they're just not. You really either have to set yourself apart, or in my opinion, you probably shouldn't be bothering. So that's just an opinion. But I want to say what that opinion is based on. It's not enough to get somebody to browse a piece of content. We need to make an impact. We need to get them to pay attention. We need to at least get them to watch your video, the personal piece, the personal connection bit. Because if we get all that going and we get that personal connection, guess what, everybody listening to the show? I'm going to say something that is so contrary to what we all believe. You know, one of the big things that's going to happen in 2022, people are going to use their damn phones to call you a lot more. Your phone's going to ring a lot more. Believe it or not, some of this digital stuff is driving people towards a phone call. Now, there's lots of reasons for it. We could do a whole nother show on all those reasons. But
I agree with you.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But I think what it is, and just to finish off before we go on to bonus content, is I noticed with my other business, I've got Melwright and I've got another business, folks, is you get the person that hits your website, that looks at the home page, and if your proposition isn't what they're looking for, they bounce. You got other people that might spend 5 minutes, like 3-4 minutes, looking at some of the crucial pages, and then they bounce. And they're probably not going to come back. Now, if the person that's come to you because they've read about you, or they listen to a podcast, or they've seen you on local radio, or they've been following you on Instagram, doesn't matter what it is, and they know what you're about, and it's come to the time where they're interested in your service, they come to your website. Those type of people, when I look at my Google Analytics, they look at every freaking page of the website. They crawl in every part of it. They know I've had customers that signed up for my services, Rob, that pointed out grammar mistakes to me. And I'm not good on grammar because of my dyslexia, but I have everything copied, read and checked over. But they still find things, or they find contradictions deep in the frequently asked questions section that nobody's visited in donkey's years. They know about, they've literally read every freaking word on that website, Rob. Would you agree with that?
Oh, totally. I had a client the other day that came in and read my terms and conditions and pointed out about 50 different errors and inconsistencies in it. And I'm just like, who are you? Like, who reads the terms?
Who reads it?
Boilerplate. It's like, what? So, yes, I agree with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an interesting first half. We're going to go to the second half. We're going to take a
bonus content.
Bonus content. Sorry, my bad. John's right. It's bonus content. I'm going to cover, this is guesswork, bleeding edge shit. Okay. But it's bleeding edge shit that I'm using, that I'm looking at, that I think is going to not just move the needle, but destroy the needle. And it's going to be very uncommon that anybody in real estate is going to hear me. I'm going to tell it to you anyway. And then you're going to come to me and pay me a small fortune to get me to do the same thing for you. For those two people that might be proactive and listen to the show and really hear me on this, maybe you check these services out without a Robert or John, and you go out and these things I'm about ready to discuss, they could change your business. So stay tuned. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Mail Right Show. You are now on our video channel. Hi, I'm wearing glasses today. Hope you like it. There's John. He looks very screen behind him that he's had since the very first time I did a show with him 2.5, 3 years ago. So, but he's got better lighting and a better camera. So there's that. All right. So what are these magical mystery things that I'm looking at? Well, I
wanted to interrupt. I would never interrupt.
You need to talk about your screen. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I might buy a plant. I was thinking of getting a big plant, Rob. What do you reckon? No,
I think that would be beautiful, but I do see a plant back there already.
Yeah, but I was going to get a bigger one, Rob.
Oh, a bigger one. Okay. Well, that would be nice. I don't know about the audience, but I would appreciate it.
I know it so deeply offends you that I think I must get a plant.
It doesn't offend me. I just keep expecting to hear like little geisha noises or something coming out of your background, like because you keep using an Asian screen to partition off for the show. But all right, let's not get derailed here because I'm excited about these things. So let me build my steam back up. So what I believe is going to be really, really impactful is the second that people start figuring out video marketing through email. All right, that's been a big belief of mine. We've interviewed people who are doing it, and for a very long time, there have only been 1 or 2 players in this market segment. I ran across another one, a very promising one that does something that the main player inside the marketplace doesn't do. It's not Boomtown. Who is the main marketplace? The main player has been around forever. They do
BombBomb. It's BombBomb.
BombBomb. There we go. BombBomb. Everybody knows BombBomb. Here's what BombBomb doesn't do. They don't really allow for mass email campaigns. It's very limited. Okay, they have them, but they're limited, and you got to sign up for their absolute highest plan at whatever price point it is. And then the options are limited. Well, finally, after many years, somebody's come into the marketplace. Now, the technology works different. BombBomb actually opens up the email seemingly from inside your email account. That's the way the technology appears to work. It's not really the way it works. It's the way it appears to work. There's another company out there now called Dub that I've been checking out. And Dub Video Communication, I haven't used them yet, but here's what they've done. They have fixed all the problems that I saw in the video marketing. They've made it so you can send out mass emails, easily upload lists that they have tracking and emojis so that people within the Dub environment can actually comment on the video, make likes, and basically give you social interaction with the video email that you just sent out. You can send these video emails out in quantities as high as 50,000. Their plans are reasonably priced. I think they're a little bit less expensive than BombBomb, probably because that's who they're chasing, if I had to guess. So does that mean that I'm recommending Dub in particular? I haven't done any test cases to tell you. I will just say to everybody listening to the show that a great extension of inbound marketing. So inbound marketing's ultimate goal beyond messaging and everything else is to collect a lot of valuable information that you can continue to sell your wildly valuable story-based marketing to. So you just want to keep collecting, and inbound marketing's philosophies are very long-term. So if you sell a couple properties off evergreen content, as John says, but you have another 5 or 10 people sign up for your subscription button, which means that there are no sales, most direct marketers would not be so excited about those 5. Inbound marketers would be insanely excited. Why? As an inbound marketer, I know that when I add somebody to my list, that I've got about 20% of those people will eventually churn and become revenue because my messaging is super high quality. They all know who I am. And eventually they're going to turn around and call me or set an appointment or come back through. And this time when they come, they're the most qualified appointment that there is because they're like, I already know who you are. I know what you do and I already know how much it costs. I just need to get the details. Literally.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm going to be a bit controversial here.
Okay. Because it's Thursday and we're doing a podcast, so why not?
I think this in the real estate industry, not only in the real estate industry, but especially the real estate industry, this fixation, we've got to get them to sign up. We've got to get them in the database. We've got to get their name, phone number, blood letter. As much we got to get as much information out there. Get them on a drip campaign. Get them sending them the properties that are on the market. I think it's all a load of bullshit. I think it doesn't. I don't think it fucking works. I'm sorry. I don't think it. But I think the whole thing is a lot of busy work that gives a lot of metrics and makes people think they're pushing the needle. It's going to push that person to become a client and give them a commission check. I don't think it fucking works, Rob. I think it's a load of bullshit.
So there are a few of you, and I know because I got one of the top 100 realtors in the entire world through the podcast. One of the only people that's ever called me, but I did get them through the show. So I know there's some of you that are listening and following that are at exceptional levels inside your own career. So I'm going to say this fast, and you need to write it down. Everybody go get a pen. I'm not joking. Okay, or hit the rewind button on the video. So here's the strategy that I'm aiming towards, and this is what I think is going to really just destroy like variations of inbound marketing or content-based marketing, and for some of you who are big brokers, it will work. So here's what the objective of anybody should be. Because I believe strongly that the main value in most marketing that is digital is heading in the direction of email. You have to focus on ways to collect people's information, but provide them high quality messaging. For those of you who don't even know what your your action plan thing is sending out, get rid of it. You're doing yourself more harm than good. I swear to you, you are. So here's what my strategy is going to be. I'm going to combine remarketing along with display advertising, and these are just ways of following somebody around Facebook, Instagram. I can follow somebody around 80% of the places they go, but I'm not going to do CTAs. It's not about direct messaging or getting them to go to a thing and sign up or anything. It's about brand awareness with a phone number. That's where I'm headed. You're going to have a phone number with a digital display ad that says, call this number, but they should have already seen your other high value messaging on YouTube, your website, someplace else that they've already seen it. Maybe they're on your email list, but here's what the thing is. We want to quietly say, we're here. Push marketing is going to take a hit in 2022, a big one. Stop pushing, start pulling. That's my advice to everybody. Now, the other piece of technology, because I promised you a big one and I'm going to give it to you. I use it myself. I've done a 1.5-year case study. It's changed my business. I don't even know what the numbers are, but it's the best decision I've made so far since opening, like in terms of like a technology that I've tried hundreds of little things. Most of them don't work, or they don't work for me. And the thing that I've tried that's worked, like I couldn't have guessed how well it was going to work, is a service called Get Emails. All right.
Oh, you've been going.
I've mentioned it to you before, John. but it continues to get me more bigger and better results. The other thing that I've used that goes hand in hand because it's done by the same tech founder is Robly. I've done two things that have changed my email marketing life. Now, many of you who don't have time to research these things, and God bless your hearts, because guess what? My doors are still open. My phone is still waiting for your call, and we can do some business, and I will do it for you. Okay. But Robly, and it is using AI to recognize when people open emails and then it's delivering them. My open rate right now, John, hear this. It's 50%.
My Godfathers.
50%.
Wow. Wow.
And my emails are arriving when you're using, so 36% of my people use Gmail, which means my email is arriving in the promotion tab. There's no way around that. It's not arriving in their main email box. Getting a 50%, well, not on every single drop, but on some of them, thousands of people, my open rate is as high as 50%. This AI says, I think the AI collects data. It gets better, more efficient over time. So the longer I've been using this, it started out at about maybe a 5 to 10% better open rate than I was getting on MailChimp. Right now, I'm at like 100% better than I was on MailChimp. I think it collects data and just keeps getting smarter about when people are going to open their emails.
Oh, so right, yeah.
The email arrives right when somebody's opening their email. So they click on it because they're already in their email, reading their email. The other things that's Robly. Get Emails does this very clever thing where it collects all our information as people, like only a few people block their information when they're surfing the web. That's still true. So what happens is when we go to a website, we leave IP information, which can be tracked directly back to who you are. There's all sorts of privacy conversations happening where this may change. But the way that Get Emails gets around the privacy laws is they say there's a national database that you can buy, and we compare the IP address versus that. And if somebody is subscribed to one of our partners to say that their information is available to a partner of this national database, we're allowed to distribute their information. It's all above board, perfectly legit, and it works. It collects about 10 to 20% of my website's visitors' information and dumps it into my account as brand new emails. So instead of getting 1, 2, 3 new subscribers per month, I get 100, 200, 300. Okay, I've collected something like 4,000 to 5,000 names this way. And guess what, everybody? That email list works as well, if not better, than the 600 emails I added originally that were all people that had talked to me that I'd had sales conversations with at the beginning of my career. The numbers are the same. It's staggering.
It's amazing. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes. So when you say what's new, what's bleeding edge, that's new, that's bleeding edge. And before the privacy laws change, before we all have to figure out what the next best thing is, please listen to me. We may not have the option of using this. And as an inbound marketer, we're not suggesting something unethical. We're not going to push these people or send them bad information or anything. We're going to collect their information and try to send them something wildly valuable to them.
Well, that is the point, isn't it? Because you send your emails, I get your emails, and I actually do open them and I do read it, because not only because you're my co-host on this podcast, well, it's normally something interesting in it. And, sometimes it's not as interesting as, because we're all got different relevancies, if there is such a word. But what I'm saying is, in general, I open it because normally at some stage there's something there of interest. So it doesn't have to hit the thing every time, but it has to hit it periodically, because you've got to show that you put some time and effort in it and you're trying to be of value. Does that make any sense?
Seeing as how that's what I do, yes. You never know. Like I have conversations with, I did a conversation with a new agent for a free consult, and I basically told him everything he needed to do to get 100K, and there was no reason for me to do that call or record it, except for the fact that I was hoping to be useful to some of the people that are on my email list. And by the way, any new agent that's going from 0 to 100,000, they are not a prospect for me. However, that's not the point. Building up high value information, if I help 2 or 3 people out of that 7,000 people that are on my list, and they get to 100,000 because they've been listening to me, I have a rabid follower. I have 2 or 3. I may have 10 or 20. I don't even know about. I've never met them, John. I don't know who they are. But guess what? They may very well owe some or all of the success of their early career to me. Do you think they're ever going to forget me? No. They're probably going to say, as soon as I can afford it, that Robert guy is going to be the person who I do business with because I helped them out without even having met them. And that's the objective. So the content would be valuable to them. Would it be valuable to you? No. That's the other point. My other part of this point is that, yeah, I try to do something valuable every single time, but it's for either a broader section of my email list or a much smaller section. Like, who the hell cares if I measured the performance of my latest website? There's probably on my list, there might be, like, I think I got 40 or 50 views out of 7,000 people on that. But those 40 or 50 people are people that I wanted to reach. Did you see it? Probably not. You shouldn't have. Why do you care? But my audience, there's a small handful that might be considering me. It's probably relevant to them. They're still thinking about it. They're still shopping. So like, okay, let's see what data he's giving us. Like,
and I just wanted to, I think you've just touched something, because I know we're running because you've got things to do, but I think we've just touched on the thing that a lot of agents and a lot of people, they haven't grasped. They really, really haven't grasped. And this is the buyer journey, the seller journey, whatever you want to bloody call it. You need to keep yourself in front of them, but they're at different times, different stages of buying or selling a house, or buying Robert's services or buying my services. But you still want them in there. You want to be in their mind, because at some stage they might become that buyer. And
correct.
And a lot in the industry, they don't understand that these people at different stages of buying or selling a house. But it's still really important to keep in their consciousness to some extent, isn't it?
Yes. It's not just important. It's listen, everybody, John's saying it one way, everybody's saying it another way. Here's the way that I'll say it, because I am, as I look, a little bit hippy dippy. And here's the thing. We're trying to make connections. Digital allows us opens the door to making many more connections than you can ever do with any other medium. You can't knock on this many doors. You can't call this many people with your cell phone. You want to make a personal connection. Once you do, John, which is people remembering you, the connection remains. Once it's there, it stays. Whether or not that person needs you at that moment you're right, it's irrelevant.
Do you know how many bloody podcasts I've done for my other business?
Hundreds, thousands? I don't even know. I don't. No, I don't.
Because we've done 324 podcasts, and you think that's a pretty large figure, don't you?
Yeah, it's yes.
Yeah, I've done 650 for my other business, Robert.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot. And you don't connect with all the people at all the times, but I think you've told me that other podcast does drive a lot of inquiries to you, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't, because it's about WordPress. But no, in a way it doesn't. In a way it does, because it gives me credibility, and I do get traffic to the website. My other business is aimed at people trying to build an e-learning business, membership, education on WordPress. The podcasts are aimed at the people that build those websites, and I'm offering a hosted service. But all that traffic means when I post or put content on my YouTube channel or on my website that's aimed at that target, because I've got all this domain authority and credibility through my podcast and outreach, I can literally compete with literally any, as long as I optimize the article and put effort in it and get it written, it's a quality article. I can literally compete with players in my competitors that are 4 times my size, Robert.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
That's why I keep doing it, because in the eyes of Google, because of all the content and all the traffic, the extra traffic I get from my website, and then they look around, Google's technology in some ways is quite sophisticated, and in other ways it isn't, is it? It's a most strange concoction, Google, isn't it? But that's why I do it. But I just brought that out because I just want to show to people, if you really want to get a result, you've got to do the bloody work.
Correct. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been, for me at least, a great show, mostly because I got a chance to speak some stuff that's close to my heart. John gave me the opportunity because he chose the subject, because I was a dingleberry and didn't really respond to his emails. I think
sometimes he doesn't like me, folks. He doesn't. He doesn't.
I've had the 2 biggest back-to-back months I've had in years, actually, maybe ever, probably ever, for Inbound REM. Our queue is full for a while, so that's great. But it's kept me on my toes in terms of the new year. On top of all that, I just happened to decide I was going to make 7 new services, some of which we've already talked about here. I finally opened my doors and done, John, I'm doing really high-end stuff now. Stuff where, I'm servicing maybe just like 100 people I'm aiming it at. Yeah. 100 brokers, that kind of thing. So it's been a great show. I really deeply appreciate you, John. If anybody would like to get in touch with you or talk to you about any of the things. And I think that for me personally on the show, I'm going to be talking more and more about your WordPress chops, because talking about the real estate stuff, it is, I don't know that you singularly shine out as much as you do as saying, hey, if you want a WordPress resource and you can still get that
I think on the phone. The actual platform is quite impressive for the point. And I honestly do agree with this. We got pushed sideways a little bit by the actual what happened in the industry, and maybe an over focus on Facebook, because it's not our only part of the technology stack that we offer in MailRight. But I think emphasizing the WordPress side of it is probably a good idea, because whatever happens in the industry, having ownership of your own website and having the best SEO platform out there, and having, we host the solutions for people, but we don't entrap them. If they get a cast iron guarantee from us that if they get fed up with us, we will move their website somewhere else. As long as they're up with their payments with us, we'll move it somewhere for them. All the services, the majority of the services that you've mentioned, if you stop paying, you lose everything, don't you?
Yes, definitely. I had a client of mine who, Derek, I'm calling you out, man. I had not a client, a consultation prospect, a business associate. I don't know how you define it, but Derek called me years ago, and then he didn't use me for anything, but he did decide to apply some of my content structure and pages and ideas to his real estate webmaster site. His income skyrocketed by 30%. It was already doing well. I don't even know what his numbers were last year, like 30-40 million is what he sold, and he had been down at the 15-20 million. The ideas that we have work anywhere that you want, but once you're in, and he said this himself, I'm quoting him. He said, I've been very successful, but god damn, do those golden handcuffs hurt. So it's just something for everybody to realize. You go far enough down the rabbit hole, you lose your option to move anywhere. WordPress is a great way to keep those doors open for yourself. Neither John and I are saying it's the best thing for everybody all the time, full stop. That's simply not true. It is a good option for people who are early to mid stage, or maybe made some bad decisions, unlike Derek, who's extremely successful. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're on Real Estate Webmasters and you're not extremely successful, or you're mid-range. This is a great time. Don't double down. This is a great time to bail on a subpar provider and try to get something that has more flexibility, so that you never get back into a situation where you have the golden handcuffs on you. That would be great, right, John?
But you do have to understand, if you've got a real, you're aimed at what you said at Webmaster, totally agree with. But we're aimed at we're not aimed at the beginners. We're aimed at people slightly below the type of people that you're trying to attract, but we're not aimed at beginners. That was a mistake as well. We're aimed at people in their second, third, fourth year, right? But if you're going to, I think MailRight's a much better solution than Real Geeks, because the problem with Real Geeks is you can't, well, I don't know, you'd be bonkers to invest a lot of time on evergreen content or any of the content that we've talked about, because if you stop paying, it's all gone. So that's bonkers, isn't it?
It is. And there's ways to save it, ladies and gentlemen, that you don't necessarily, but transfer costs, energy, it is extraordinarily high, like really high. I know quite a few people that have moved from Real Estate Webmasters over to Sierra Interactive, and the level of both investment and time that the website owner put into making sure content was transferred and all this different stuff, and SEO and URL structure was maintained, which I may be speaking Greek to a lot of you. But it means that those are all the things that you need to do to try to maintain the value of an investment that you've already made. It's like saying, I have to move my house and every single thing in it someplace else in order for it to have any value. Think about how crazy that would be. And everything has to be set up exactly inch by inch the same way as you had it set up in the previous house. Can you even imagine? You got somebody out there taking pictures and memorizing every single detail, all so that you can then movement. It's a lot of work, ladies and gentlemen, even if you could do it. And most people don't. That's what John is saying, and he's correct. 90% of website owners know nothing. You know what, John, make a note of this. Next time you and I have to do a show by yourself, we need to do a show, like a whole show, on what do you need to know if you're moving from one marketing provider to another. Seriously, we just need to dedicate a whole episode to that.
Just to finish off, this just doesn't affect my other business. We have a host of SaaS-based competitors to WordPress and the partnerships and solutions I offer in my other business, Robert. Mm-hmm. But one of the leading is Kajabi. Kajabi, they are hardcore marketers. They have built a $50 million plus business. There is no, if you've got a Kajabi site, there is no automatic way of getting that content out. The only way you can construct is build a custom WordPress theme that looks the same as the Kajabi theme, and then you've got to copy and paste and manually move the membership and copy and paste the courses content from their platform into a WordPress, and somebody's got to do all that. And depending on the how big the website, you understand how much money that could cost.
Correct. And
they do it that way because they got you by the balls, haven't they? Because they know most people will never want to do that.
That's how they built a $50 million business, and that's why it's so smart for them. But ladies and gentlemen, it is not necessarily smart for you. Here's the thing that is a reality. Your business is going to grow. I don't care where you're at. Some people have been doing it for 30 years. Some of you have been doing it for 3 years. It doesn't make a difference. Your business is going to grow and change beyond your current conception of what it's going to be. And when it does, you're going to have to change your digital strategies with it. Now, if you've got $50, $100, $200, $300,000 in a strategy, plus you've got to spend another $50, all just to move it, you're going to feel like it's a $350,000 decision for you to go someplace else, even though the old thing that you're doing is probably not working correctly or representing you correctly or whatever, like, you do the math, something, right? Don't do it. Try to remain flexible. I promise you, even though it may not make you as much money right now, today, and it may not seem as easy, over the span of anybody who's a dedicated professional who thinks they're going to do real estate for the next 5 or 10 years, you're always going to come out ahead, in my opinion.
I think it's time to wrap it up. We'll see you next week, folks.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon. Bye.